Okay, so yeah, I hope you're seeing my screen. And as you can see, I'm at the University of Maryland, as I said before, and I have the presentation, imaginatively titled "Latest Fedora News from the University of Maryland." So I'm going to talk about two things we've been working on with our Fedora repositories. All right, so the first thing that we've been working on is we're actually rolling out Avalon Media System and taking that to production in about a month. So that's pretty exciting. That's something we've been working on for quite a while. And I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing there. We are, we're happy that we're able to basically use the stock application in this case. So we're not inventing our own systems so much here. We're just able to deploy Avalon, and we're doing that in Docker and Kubernetes. We're planning to, as you know, that Avalon is for streaming media, and so we're planning to migrate our audio and video collections that are currently still in Fedora, in old Fedora, or legacy Fedora, into this system eventually. But for the production launch, we're actually focusing just on 3 collections. So we have a grant to digitize some videos from something called the Liz Lerman Dance Exchange, which was Liz Lerman was a professor at the University of Maryland and ran this group called the Dance Exchange, which kind of did various dance activities as well as sort of performance art kind of activities around the DC area. It's always popular to have athletics materials in our digital collections. Those are some of the materials that get actually some of the most use, and so we are actually going to be migrating our some athletics films, specifically basketball films, into this system at launch time. And then we have a lot of historical broadcast journalism collections, and so we have a collection called the Westinghouse Broadcasting Company collection that's going to be in there as well when we launch. So we're excited about this. This is, as I mentioned, we're part of our attempt to shut down our legacy Fedoras. We've been working on that for quite a while, and you build a lot of systems around those, and people get dependent on what you've built, and they're kind of long-standing things, and it becomes very hard to extricate yourself from those and to replicate all of the features that you may have built in the new system. And so this has been a long process for us, but this will be a big step forward to be able to get our AV out. We currently use Fedora 2 for that, actually. And the Fedora points to a streaming server called ShareStream. And so we'll be happy to be able to shut down ShareStream entirely with this. And then also it's a big chunk of our content in the old Fedora. And so we'll be able to get closer to at least getting everything moved over. One of the future plans we'd like to do around Avalon is downloadable media. So right now what happens, we have a batch load process. We're able to load our content through something they call the Dropbox, and with a spreadsheet, basically with metadata, and it works quite well. When you add content to Avalon, it will transcode it for streaming, and it just by default keeps the original playable file in that Dropbox area. And so it's not really, for us, doesn't feel like it's quite what we want. We have a little more concern about that original file. And we'd also like to be able to make that downloadable. And so that's something we have potentially planned for the future to figure out a solution for that. We've actually implemented something called capability URLs in our Fedora 4 repository. So any object that's in that repository you can create a download link for it that's not discoverable, but and you can have it expire when used or expire at a certain time. So that would be a great feature for this, for curators to be able to allow patrons who are interested in downloading a streaming media to be able to create a link for them and supply them with that link, and then they can download it and get that. But unfortunately, we're using an entirely separate Fedora for Avalon just because that's the simplest way to deploy it. So it's the files that we're putting into Avalon aren't actually going to be in our other Fedora, which would have this feature. So something we're working on to hopefully fix in the future. All right, so I would like to just give you a real brief demo. This is not the production site, but it'll take you to the staging site just so you can see what Avalon's like if you're not familiar. So this is not fully themed yet, but you've got a little bit of our branding on here. And oh, here's a logo. So, you know, maybe if you're playing bingo, you might have that. This gives you an idea what it's like. We've got the Westinghouse broadcasting tapes here. It's a, you know, a very nice full-featured kind of plug and play kind of system. So we're really happy with Avalon so far. And it's really been for us much easier to deploy than some of the things we've tried in the past. All right, so I'm not going to play any of these. It's probably not going to go well in a live environment, but I do want to talk about a second project, and that is this thing called the WHA Pool Reports collection. So this is another recent development for us with Fedora, and this is what we call a production demo site or production demonstration site. So the idea was to bring up this collection in a Fedora-based repository to kind of prove, not only have proof of concept, but also to be in production with just a kind of small set of materials compared to what we might do in the future. And the idea being to generate interest, to generate potentially donations, and possibly to build grant proposals around it. So, so this is what we call a production demo. And it's the collection is the WHCA, which stands for White House Correspondents Association. So this is the group of reporters who are you know, assigned to report on the White House. And they have this thing called the pool, which, you know, not all of them can be there all the time. And so they have reporters assigned to be the pool reporter who will do the official reporting on the president and the vice president and the first lady, second gentleman, etc. And they will do that reporting and send it out, and it's kind of shared reporting, right? So that's the Pool Correspondents Association, Pool Reports. This is an email collection, right? So it's primarily like it used to be on paper, but currently the pool operates via email. And this has presented some challenges for us. So this has been an interesting problem. And Fedora, you know, is definitely up to the challenge of handling this. And so we've benefited from the flexibility that we're able to build into our modeling and so forth in Fedora. But it has been somewhat challenging to build. So one of the challenges is this idea of capture versus deposit. So all of our previous collections were deposit type collections, right? We would get a collection from Curator and we would load it in, and it was kind of a done thing. We might get things to add later, but we weren't continuously getting new materials. With this email collection, because it's the current emails is what we're actually getting, there's a whole nother issue of needing to capture those emails. And we don't actually publish them in real time for reasons I'll get to in a minute, but we are capturing them effectively in real time. And one thing we've found is that reporters are sharing links to other materials in those emails, like recordings or images or things like that. And those links are expiring. And so you really do have to be continuously capturing the material if you're going to be sure to get everything. Like we can't go back and get things from 6 months ago because a lot of the links no longer work. And so that's been a challenging kind of workflow issue to set up. We also had display issues that we had to deal with. So we wanted to reuse as much of our existing Fedora infrastructure as we could. So we have image collections, we have newspaper collections in Fedora right now, but we don't have any email collections. And so displaying those emails was a bit of a challenge. So first we thought convert generally they came as HTML, and we would convert that HTML into an image. Because the image could, not only could it have potentially in the future, it could have the text behind it, that coordinates of the image could be keyed to the words in the text, but we could, which would enable things like hit highlighting, right? But we could also use our existing IIIF display viewer. We had some problems with that, so we attempted to implement that, but we found that because reporters were sending these from their phones, we were getting some weird behavior with how the images would display, and it was partly an issue of just getting that conversion correct, but we found it actually quite challenging to get the emails to display in a consistently user-friendly way when we converted them to images. And so we actually reverted to stripping out HTML, stripping out most of the styling from the HTML and just displaying the plain HTML. And it worked okay, but there's still some problems with that as well that we're still working on. Finally, the third challenge we ran into was, this is partly a reflection of the environment that we're living in. There was a lot of concern among the Correspondence Association that we redact certain information out of those email messages. They are sending these on effectively a public mailing list, but it's not going out to the whole world. Whereas this collection is being made available online just to the general public. And there was concern that phone numbers and particularly physical addresses be redacted from these messages. And so that's been a challenge. Of course, that's not something that's very easy to automate. It's really kind of almost a machine learning problem to try to find addresses in text. And that's not something we really have resources to do. And so we developed I guess, a machine assisted process where we try to redact what we can essentially with regular expressions, but then we have a person who will review those to make sure nothing was missed and everything that was redacted is correct. And so we basically, the automated redactor will pull out matching text that matches those certain patterns and we'll put in a black box so that you can see something was removed, but not publishing addresses and phone numbers. So for this project, we have some future plans. We hope to do some named entity recognition. So there's a lot of, as you can imagine, there's a lot of names that get tossed about in these messages, names of important political figures. And it would be nice to pull those out into structured metadata and to have additional subjects, say, from that. And so trying to do some automated named entity recognition is an interesting project. And then there is this thing you may have heard of called Mailbag, which is a specification that's being worked on, I guess, at the University of Albany, if I'm not mistaken. And that's an extension of Bagit, as far as I understand, and just seemed very timely that I've seen some chatter about it lately, because it might be really interesting for us to have that kind of standardized way to package up these materials as we're capturing them. So I just want to just show you briefly what this site looks like. This is a Drupal site. So we built the front end in Drupal. We're actually moving our website in the libraries into Drupal because that's what the campus uses. And so we'll be doing more and more with Drupal on top of Fedora. So you can go in here and you can search, and you can see the, you can facet by the report name of the reporter, and you can see here, you can see a few, first of all, a few of the display issues. We got some paragraph tags that are missing, or div tags that got stripped out. And then you see the redaction here that's going on. We don't redact Twitter handles. We've determined through a discussion that Twitter was basically public, but we do redact emails and phone numbers. So that's the collection. And you know, it's full text searchable, it's available, so you can go take a look if you're interested in that. But yeah, so that's actually my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention, and happy to answer questions, if not now, later on in the conference, or you can email me at this email address. Thank you.